Those historical facts you confidently repeat like you're the CEO of knowledge? Most of them are absolute clown shoes. Today, we're not just correcting history, we're dropkicking the biggest lies ever gift-wrapped as truth. Because kings screwed up, governments panicked, and storytellers got dramatic. And instead of fixing mistakes, they just fixed the story. So buckle up. We're exposing 24 times history was faked, and still fools people today. Old maps weren't cute mistakes. They were straight-up propaganda. Medieval kings wanted Europe to look like the world's VIP section, so cartographers stretched Europe like elastic and shrank Africa until it looked like a footnote drawn by someone who ran out of ink. These weren't accidents. This was political Photoshop. And because maps got copied for centuries, the lies became geography class. So when you see those medieval maps and think, wow, people back then were clueless, remember, you're not looking at ignorance. You're looking at ego. Beautifully illustrated. Number 2. El Dorado was invented. The myth of El Dorado, the jungle city made of pure gold, wasn't ancient legend. It was European FOMO. Explorers heard stories about a local chief covered in gold dust, and their brains immediately went, ah yes, an entire city made of solid gold bricks. Confirmed. Spain spent decades sending men to die, searching for something that was literally made up. They didn't find gold, but they did create the world's most expensive treasure hunt, with absolutely zero treasure. El Dorado wasn't a city. It was a misunderstanding, plus excessive greed. Number 3. Ancient atomic theory existed first. Modern science likes to flex about discovering the atom, but ancient Indian and Greek philosophers were talking about atomic particles before Europe even invented pants with proper buttons. They believed everything was made of tiny indivisible units, long before microscopes existed. These weren't wild guesses. They were using logic like, if you cut something in half endlessly, eventually, you hit the smallest piece. The idea wasn't new. Modern science just put fancy math and a lab coat on it. Number 4. The Library of Alexandria burned multiple times. Everyone loves the dramatic story. One fire, one night, one legendary library destroyed by one villain. It's clean, cinematic, tragic, and totally wrong. The Library of Alexandria burned in stages, by Julius Caesar, then later by religious groups, then by political chaos. It was basically the ancient world's slow-motion tech support disaster. No single villain. Just centuries of people treating priceless knowledge like a disposable coffee cup. Number 5. The Chicago Fire wasn't started by a cow. So, the Chicago Fire, the disaster everyone blames on one clumsy cow. According to the legend, Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over a lantern, and poof, an entire city turned into a campfire. It's a fun story. It's a simple story. And most importantly, it blames the animal. Perfect, right? Yeah, none of it happened. Not even a little. The whole cow incident was literally invented by a newspaper reporter, who admitted later he just made it up because it sounded spicy. And Mrs. O'Leary? She was a poor Irish immigrant, which made her the perfect scapegoat. The truth is, Chicago was a giant wooden tinderbox during a drought. A cigarette, a spark, even a random ember could have done it. But blaming a cow? Way easier. Number 6. Marie Antoinette never said, "Let them eat cake." The most famous royal catchphrase in history. A complete fabrication. Marie Antoinette never told starving peasants to eat cake. That line existed before she was even born and was used to make fun of rich people in general. Later, revolutionaries slapped her name on it to make her look like a clueless villain. She had her flaws, sure, but she didn't recommend dessert as an economic policy. Number 7. Napoleon wasn't short. Napoleon, history's shortest tall guy, except he wasn't short. He was around 5 feet 6 or 5 feet 7, completely average for his time. So why the reputation? Because British cartoonists ran a non-stop smear campaign, drawing him like a furious toddler with a sword. Add a measurement mix-up between French and British inches, and voila, the world's first viral height meme. Napoleon wasn't tiny. He was a meme victim. Number 8. Gladiators rarely fought to the death. Hollywood lied to you again. Gladiators did not fight to the death every time. Why? Because gladiators were expensive, like luxury car expensive. Owners didn't want their prized athletes getting skewered 3 minutes into a fight. Most matches ended by points, skill, or surrender. The Colosseum wasn't Fortnite with swords. It was more like WWE with higher stakes and worse dental plans. Number 9. The pyramids weren't built by slaves. Let's clear up one of Hollywood's favorite lies. The pyramids were not built by endless lines of starving slaves getting whipped under the Egyptian sun. Archaeologists discovered worker villages with beds, bakeries, breweries, yes, beer, and even medical care. They found workers buried in proper graves, which would never happen if they were slaves. These people were skilled laborers, stonecutters, engineers, builders, basically Egypt's elite construction crew. The pyramids weren't a punishment. They were a massive national project, and people were proud to work on them. So no, it wasn't a giant desert sweatshop. It was the ancient world's most impressive team project, with surprisingly good benefits. Number 10. Vikings didn't wear horned helmets. Time to destroy one of the most iconic images ever. Vikings with big dramatic horned helmets. Yeah, those never existed. The whole idea came from an opera costume designer in the 1800s who decided horns looked cool on stage, and the world just rolled with it. Real Vikings wore simple metal helmets and spent way more energy on personal grooming than on fashion statements. Archaeologists found combs, razors, tweezers. These guys bathed weekly and styled their hair like early influencers. So forget the horned barbarian look. Real Vikings weren't wild animals. They were clean, practical, well-groomed, and occasionally violent men with very normal helmets. Number 11. Viking funerals weren't flaming boat launches. The flaming Viking funeral, a long ship pushed out to sea and lit on fire with one dramatic arrow, looks amazing in movies, and was basically impossible in real life. Wind, waves, moving water. You'd miss the boat, hit the shore, or accidentally torch the entire dock. And no Viking wanted to watch their expensive ship turn into a floating candle. Those things were worth a fortune. Real Viking funerals were usually cremations on land. Practical, controlled, efficient, not cinematic. The flaming boat tradition didn't come from history. It came from modern writers who thought, hey, this would look sick on screen. And honestly, they weren't wrong. It just wasn't real. Number 12. Medieval Europe wasn't, scientifically, dark. The Dark Ages wasn't a century-long blackout where everyone forgot how to think. That label was slapped on by later writers who wanted to make their own era look smarter. Medieval Europe actually invented universities, eyeglasses, mechanical clocks, and made major leaps in math, architecture, and medicine. People were studying astronomy, perfecting engineering, and building cathedrals so precise we still can't explain half their tricks today. Sure, life wasn't luxurious, but it wasn't a scientific void. It was a busy, innovative era that simply had terrible marketing. Number 13. Newton's apple didn't give him gravity. Newton didn't sit under a tree, get smacked by an apple, and suddenly unlock gravity like a cheat code. He wasn't downloading physics from the sky. He just saw an apple fall and thought, why straight down? That moment sparked curiosity, not a fully formed theory. The real discovery took years of brutal math, headache-level calculations, and enough brainpower to melt a modern calculator. The apple didn't give him gravity. It just gave him a question. The genius was everything he did after the fruit hit the ground. Number 14. Edison didn't invent the light bulb alone. Thomas Edison gets full credit for the light bulb, but dozens of inventors were working on electric lighting long before he showed up. Joseph Swan even built a working bulb first. and sued Edison, and won. Edison's real talent wasn't inventing the bulb, it was perfecting it, mass-producing it, and building the entire electrical system that made it useful. He didn't create the light bulb out of thin air. He created the version that wouldn't explode, burn out instantly, or bankrupt the buyer. Edison wasn't a lone genius. He was the world's first tech CEO. Number 15. Einstein didn't fail math. The idea that Einstein failed math is one of history's laziest myths. He was doing advanced calculus at the age of 14. The man was doing advanced calculus while most teenagers were still losing pencils. The rumor started because his school used a grading system where higher numbers actually meant worse scores. Someone misread it, panicked, and boom! Einstein was suddenly a math dropout in the public imagination. In reality, he crushed every math class he ever took. Einstein didn't fail math, he just failed PR. Number 16. Shakespeare didn't invent hundreds of words. Shakespeare gets credited with inventing half the English language, like he woke up every day and said, "Time to create 40 fresh words before lunch." But most of the words he invented were already being used in everyday speech. He was just the first person to write them down in plays that survived. Because he was wildly popular, his versions became the default, and history handed him all the credit. Shakespeare didn't create English. He just had the world's most successful note-taking habit. Number 17. Samurai didn't follow a perfect honor code. The samurai are famous for Bushido, a strict honor code of loyalty, discipline, and noble behavior. Great story. Except Bushido didn't actually exist during most of the samurai era. The code was written centuries later, long after the real samurai were gone. Actual samurai were political survivors, sometimes honorable, sometimes ruthless, and occasionally just dudes doing whatever kept them alive and paid. Bushido was retroactive PR, a polished rulebook created to romanticize warriors who, in reality, were far more complicated than the legends. Number 18. Catherine the Great and the horse was pure slander. One of the ugliest rumors in history claims Catherine the Great died in some bizarre incident involving a horse. It's disgusting, and more importantly, it's absolute fiction. The story was invented by her political enemies in Europe, who wanted to humiliate a powerful woman they couldn't control. And the rumor stuck because people love a scandal more than a fact. The truth? She died of a stroke at 67 in her private chambers, a completely ordinary death for a ruler of her era. The horse story wasn't history. It was centuries-old character assassination that got way too popular. Number 19. Wild West gunfights weren't Hollywood duels. The classic Wild West showdown, two gunslingers staring each other down at high noon, is pure Hollywood fiction. Real gunfights were messy, chaotic, and usually involved alcohol, bad aim, and someone getting shot in the back behind a saloon. There were no dramatic pauses, no hand-hovering standoffs, and definitely no perfectly timed tumbleweeds. Even the legendary sheriffs weren't gunslinging heroes. Most of their job was breaking up bar fights and arresting drunks. The Wild West wasn't an action movie. It was mostly boredom, bad hygiene, and terrible decision-making. Number 20. The Trojan Horse probably wasn't a horse. The famous Trojan Horse, a giant wooden gift full of soldiers, is one of history's greatest plot twists, and one of its biggest myths. Most historians agree the literal horse probably never existed. It was likely a metaphor for a siege engine, or even a poetic way of describing an earthquake that cracked Troy's walls. The Greeks didn't win with a giant wooden statue and surprise roommates. They won with engineering, persistence, and a story that got way more dramatic in the retelling. The Trojan Horse wasn't brilliant espionage. It was brilliant storytelling. Number 21. Columbus did not discover America. Saying Columbus discovered America is like walking into someone's house, seeing the whole family inside, and yelling, "Look what I found." Millions of people were already living across the continents, with complex societies, cities, and trade networks. Columbus didn't even land in what's now the United States. He hit the Caribbean, got lost, and thought he was in Asia. And he definitely wasn't the first European here. Vikings reached North America centuries earlier. Columbus didn't discover America. He accidentally kick-started European colonization while looking for the wrong destination. Number 22. Vikings reached America first and didn't stay. Yes, Vikings actually made it to North America long before Columbus. We even have archaeological proof. Real Viking structures found in Newfoundland. But their stay was short. The local indigenous peoples were not impressed by Viking nonsense, and the Vikings quickly realized they were outmatched, outnumbered, and definitely not welcome. So they did what any sensible explorer would do. They took a quick look around, argued among themselves, and dipped. Vikings reached America first. They just had the world's shortest trial membership. Number 23. King Arthur probably never existed. King Arthur, the heroic king, Excalibur, Camelot, the Round Table, is one of the coolest legends ever told, and almost entirely a legend. There's no solid historical evidence an actual King Arthur ever lived. No records, no artifacts, nothing. The stories we know come from folklore, poems, and medieval writers who loved mixing real history with wild imagination. Arthur was likely a blend of several leaders, mythical heroes, and creative storytelling. He wasn't a single man. He was a medieval superhero mashup who became way more famous than any of the real people he was based on. Number 24. Pirates didn't bury treasure. The classic pirate treasure map with a big red X? Yeah, that's pure fiction. Real pirates didn't bury chests of gold for future adventurers. They spent their loot immediately on booze, gambling, parties, and every terrible life choice available in the nearest port. Only one pirate, Captain Kidd, ever buried treasure, and he did it as a bargaining chip to avoid execution, which did not work. For the rest of them, buried treasure made 0 sense. Why hide your money when you can blow it all on rum tonight? Pirates weren't secretive masterminds. They were broke by choice. Alright, confession booth time. Be honest, which one of these historical lies have you confidently repeated in public? Which one did you defend with your whole chest, only to find out today that you were passionately and beautifully wrong? Don't worry, you're in good company. Most of the facts we grew up with were basically history fan fiction, written by kings trying to look good, politicians hiding disasters, and storytellers who said, the truth is boring. Let's spice it up. But now you know better. Today, you leveled up. Your brain has officially escaped the Museum of Misinformation and downloaded the DLC pack called Reality. And hey, if this video just saved you from embarrassing yourself at a party someday, the payment is simple: 1 like. Subscribing is your long-term insurance policy against getting roasted by your smarter friends in the future. You know what to do. I'll see you in the next deep dive into the world's favorite lies.